Hey, so what's going on, everyone? So, this morning, I woke up to record a couple videos. This is the third or fourth video I've recorded, and I've got a few more I got to record before I put my equipment up for the day. And I woke up this morning to a ton of notifications. And I thought, all right, so today's Wednesday. For me, at least. I know when all of you see this, it's either going to be uploaded on a Tuesday or a Friday. But it fits in with what I'm saying. On Tuesday, my latest upload gets put up, goes live. I wake up the next day to 40 plus notifications, which for me is a lot. And I was just expecting a lot of people to say how much they liked the video that got posted the day before. And there's a couple of people I'm subscribed to where I've got the bell notification turned on. By the way, if you want to do that with this channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, my thought process was, okay, cool. I've got some people wanting to check out what I'm doing. And I was getting a ton of comments. And in a weird twist of events, it was not from the video that just got uploaded. It was from two different videos, and one of them went up before Christmas. For those that are wondering, I am recording this video in March 2021, and the video that was getting a lot of comments was posted in December of 2020. I also had another video that got uploaded, I want to say about 3 weeks ago. And a lot of people were putting in the comments, more discussion videos, more discussion videos, more discussion videos. So, while recording my unboxing videos and answering a couple of emails I had, I was trying to think of what would be the best discussion video for me to do. And I thought I would go a little further into detail on a question that I both answered and did not answer in my Q&A that I did back around Christmas. So one of the questions that I got asked, and I get asked it frequently, even when people just want to talk to me about my books and my writing stuff, is what's my favorite book I've written? And I never answer. Well, let me backtrack on that. I don't answer it anymore. And I don't answer it for a lot of reasons. But I'm going to give a couple of reasons why I personally don't answer that question. Number one, I'm still growing as an author. In 2010, yes, 11 years ago, I released my third poetry book, Awakening with the Sea. And I thought it was my best book ever. And I was telling everyone, oh, this is my best book. And when people realize who I am, like long after I'm gone, this will be the book that everyone's going to be like, yes. Fast forward to now, that book is now out of print. One of the poems has been rewritten for an anthology that I was asked to be a part of. And the opening poem in that book, The Warrior, has since been rewritten for Meta. It's the introductory poem for Meta as well. And I have since rewritten The Warrior again for another anthology that will be out this year or next year. Looking back at it now, Awakening with the Sea, while is a good book, it features a lot of stuff I wrote when I was a teenager. My rhyme schemes are very basic. I was still trying to find my footing in doing poems that didn't rhyme, and a lot of those poems are really, really choppy. Like, I'm sure if I were to show it to someone who's more of an expert with poetry than I am, that book will get trashed. So that's one reason. And I've done that a couple other times since then. I said the same thing with Veering Straight Ahead, my first non-poetry book I released. It's a collection of short stories and essays. I was like, this is the best book I've done. This is going to be me getting my foot into the fiction world, and everyone's going to love it, and they're going to go back and go, hey, this is the book that got Luke into writing fiction. It's not. It's not even close. I've got to give that credit to Three Crowns. Three Crowns is one of my better selling books, and the people that attached to it was one of the reasons I continue to write fiction. It was one of the reasons why you're not getting a poetry book every single year like you used to. Like, there's a 2-year gap between Meta and the Paradox Complex. There's an almost 3-year gap between the Paradox Complex and Omni. Like, the only reason that there's going to be 2 poetry books this year is because one of them's a compilation. So that's one of the reasons I don't. Because I'm still growing, and every time I see improvements in my writing, or I see improvements in how I put a book together, even with marketing the book, I always feel like I've written the best thing I've ever written, and I'm never going to be able to top it. And I've done that almost every single time. So with me still growing as a writer and still learning stuff, I can't really say that a certain book is my favorite, because every time I do that, it turns around and it bites me, because it changes constantly. So that's one reason. Another reason that I don't really talk about like what book is my favorite, I don't know how many people watch interviews with actors when it goes to a movie, a TV show, or even a Broadway production, or with musicians with their latest projects, or even other authors with their latest book. Some of them that are signed to agencies or publishers or big movie studios or record labels, you're always expected to say that your newest work is your best work ever. Here is why that is a horrible idea on my end, to say that my latest work is my best work ever. In 2018, I published 5 books. In 2019, I published a novella collection, and I appeared in 50 plus anthologies. Last year, I did 6 digital releases and 3 print compilations. This year, I've currently got plans for at least 4 books to be released. If I were to say this is my best work ever, I'm going to be saying that every few months. Let me give everyone an example. Last year, Lucifer's Lost Love came out in January. Playing Games came out in February. Cindy's Choice came out in May. Demonic Bites came out in June. Sector Omicron came out in August. Tales from the Forbidden Forest came out in September. And Regroup from the Remains came out in December. That's quite a few times that I would be changing my answer for this is my best work. And that's just in one calendar year. So this year, Omni initial phase has already come out. Omni secondary phase is about to come out. There's also the Bedbug supplement book, plus my follow-up to Omni, Elsewhere. I would be telling you that my book is my best book ever at least 4 times this year. That doesn't sound like a good idea. That sounds like I can't make up my mind. So that's another reason why I don't really discuss that question. So here is the other reason why I don't do this, and I am going to eliminate one of my books from what book you may think is my favorite. My best-selling book, as well as my most well-received book, is my poetry book, Meta. A lot of people that follow me have told me, hands down, that's their favorite book. And I'm appreciative of it. Don't get me wrong, I love that people love that book. It's a more personal book from me. It features an award-winning poem that has been republished 6 times. I will have the link in the description below for that video. It is something that, even to this day, I have since written other poetry books, I've since written other books, and that's a book that people keep going to. When I started writing fiction, that was around the time I started doing comic book conventions where I was selling my novella 3 Crowns, which is considered fantasy. I have The Escape of Ernest Frost and Dream Awake, which are both considered horror. I have been in multiple sci-fi anthologies, multiple fantasy anthologies, and multiple times I will sell out of Meta before I sell out of anything else. So here's where I'm going to do a process of elimination for anyone who wants to try and figure out which book is my favorite. My favorite book's not Meta. And it's not my favorite for a lot of reasons. While I'm glad people can relate to it and connect with it, that book took me 3 years to write. Out of every book I've written, I can usually have an idea in mind and have it written within 6 to 8 months. That's usually how long it takes me to write a book. And part of the reason it takes me even that long is because I'm usually writing multiple projects at once. With Meta, I was sort of working on 3 Crowns at the time. But for the most part, most of my attention was on Meta. I really didn't finish the last few chapters of 3 Crowns until after Meta came out. So while a lot of people are like, yes, this is my favorite book of yours, I bet this is your favorite, and that's one reason it's not. Another reason was I answered the request from a lot of people that read the predecessor, Approaching Humanity. A lot of people told me they wanted me to get more personal with my work. So that's what I did. And at the time of me writing Meta, the 2 biggest things going on in my life were family members telling me they were never going to support me, and I went through a very, very nasty breakup. So a lot of the poems in there are about my unsupportive family and my ex-girlfriend. So when I go back to read the poems in there when I record them for my second channel, I have to go back to being told by someone they were never going to support me, or I have to go back to why a relationship ended as bad as it did. And for me, that's a little difficult. Sorry. So for me, yes, I like Meta. I'm very proud of the success that Meta has had. It was the book that showed me that while it may have not become a bestseller, it was the first time where I was like, hey, bestseller status is possible. This was the first time where I was getting a lot of traction. I was gaining momentum. So for me, yes, there's a lot of things I love about that book. I even like the fact that I've been told before what to do and what not to do with my book covers. Meta is one of the things I was told to never do. For those that have never seen the cover for Meta, is a solid white cover with my name and the title on it. And I did that on purpose. And that's one of the things that attracts people to that book. So yes, I'm glad that people love the book. And there's a lot of poems in that book that have since been republished. I believe at the time of me recording this, there are either 8 or 9 poems on my second channel that are just from Meta alone. I recently tried to start recording poems from the Paradox Complex and Approaching Humanity, and people were asking for more poems from Meta. So I'm glad that a lot of people love the book. So don't get me wrong when I say it's not my favorite, but the experience that I had to go through to write that book is something I don't want to have to go through again. And because of that, I cannot call that book my favorite. Which goes back to the question that I frequently get asked. What's my favorite book that I've written? And honestly, I think I'm never going to answer that question again. Do I have a favorite? I might not. I think a lot of other authors will definitely say they have a favorite or least favorite book that they've written. And for me, there are books that I feel are important to me personally because they helped me get to where I am. But as far as me answering that question, because my favorite book isn't Meta, I feel like if I answer that question, the book that I would call my favorite would be put under a microscope. And I would have people telling me why my favorite book should be Meta instead of this. And from my point, I'm the one who wrote it. I believe I have the right to say what poem or what book I think is my favorite or what book I think is my least favorite. So I will answer a couple other things though. I won't tell you what my favorite book is, but I will tell you that 2 of my favorite poems I've written are Remission, that is featured in the Ink Feathers anthology As I Learned to Fly, which means it will also be in my compilation poetry book Elsewhere. And I will also say that one of my favorite poems that I wrote for Omni is Blinded. Because after I wrote that poem, I was able to I tapped into something that helped me finish up writing not only initial phase, but it helped me get a lot of the secondary phase poems done too. So if you want to know some of my favorite poems, those are 2 of them. Check out Blinded and check out Remission. I will have links in the description below for As I Learned to Fly and for Omni Initial Phase. On the fiction side of things, one of my favorite short stories that I've ever written is Wingreen Possession. Because that particular story led to me writing a series of interconnected short stories. Since then, there's been Wingreen Uprising, which is a prequel to it, Wingreen Reprise, which takes place between Uprising and Possession. I also have an origin story for the Wingreen Saga that's going to be published hopefully this year. And I have a sequel to Wingreen Possession that's going to be an anthology that I believe is expected to come out in the spring. So that's one of my favorite short stories I've written. I know a lot of people have also told me how much they enjoyed my short story Saved by a Siren, which is in the Ink Feathers anthology Lost and Misunderstood. Because that was my first time trying to blend genres together, and it wasn't necessarily intentional, but it just happened like that. And a lot of people were telling me how much they enjoyed it and the improvements they saw in my writing with that one story. And that meant a lot to me because it got rejected 3 times before it finally got accepted its first time. For those who don't know, Lost and Misunderstood is actually Saved by a Siren's second time getting published. So as far as stuff like that, I will definitely answer those type of questions. I'll also answer one more. My favorite anthology I've ever been featured in, I will have to give that to Storming Area 51 from Black Hair Press. because all the stories are interconnected. You can pretty much read the book like a novel, even though it's multiple short stories from, I believe, 30 plus authors. So that's something that was really cool to do. Stuff like that, I will absolutely answer. If I'm featured in a book more than once, I'll tell you what my favorite is of those particular stories. If you want to know a favorite poem in each book, I'll answer that too. As far as my favorite book, I'm going to probably leave that question unanswered. And I believe every answer I've given are logical answers behind why I will probably never answer that question again. I used to, and looking back at it, I kind of wish I didn't say that Awakening with the Sea is my favorite book, or that Veering Straight Ahead is my favorite book, because Awakening with the Sea is now out of print, and I don't even mention Veering Straight Ahead anymore. Some people didn't even know it existed until I did my past book unboxing video where people got to see the picture. But that does it for this one. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. I always do my best to respond to the comments in a timely manner. Follow me on social media. I am on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I've got a second channel where I read my poetry and my short stories. Some of those poems that I mentioned are even on the second channel at the moment. So check that out. And that does it for this one. So thank you all for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.